In 2026, some cruise ports are still hotspots for theft, scams, and other risks. Not because cruises are unsafe, but because certain ports are. We're counting down the 10 most dangerous cruise ports, and number 1 is visited by millions each year, without most cruisers realizing the risk. Stay to the end. It might surprise you, and make sure you subscribe. This isn't fear-mongering. Millions cruise safely every year, but these are the ports where tourists face the biggest dangers. Now, let's begin the countdown. The 10 most dangerous cruise ports in 2026. Port 10, Roatan, Honduras. Roatan looks like a dream cruise stop. Turquoise water, lush hills, and smiling locals right at the port. And inside the cruise-controlled area, it does feel safe. The problem starts the moment you step outside that bubble. In 2026, tourist-targeted theft just beyond the port zone remains a real issue, especially for cruisers who wander off on their own. Pickpockets and small groups watch cruise arrival times closely, knowing exactly who's unfamiliar with the area. Another growing risk is fake tour operators, people who look official, sound convincing, and promise cheaper or better experiences than ship excursions. Once you're away from the port, help is limited, and recovery is unlikely. Roatan feels safe until you leave the cruise-controlled areas. Port 9, Nassau, Bahamas. Nassau is one of the most visited cruise ports in the world, and that familiarity is exactly what makes it dangerous. Many cruisers drop their guard here thinking, "I've been here before," or "It's basically a resort town." In 2026, pickpocket rings around high-traffic areas like the straw market continue to target distracted tourists, especially those carrying phones, wallets, or shopping bags. These thefts are fast, coordinated, and often unnoticed until it's too late. Because Nassau feels easy and walkable, cruisers explore casually, without a plan or awareness of their surroundings. That overconfidence is what criminals rely on. This is one of the most underestimated dangerous cruise ports. Not because it's chaotic, but because it feels harmless. Port 8. Falmouth, Jamaica. Falmouth's cruise port is modern, clean, and heavily secured, which creates a false sense of safety. Inside the port gates, everything feels controlled and calm. But once you step outside, the environment changes quickly. In 2026, aggressive harassment remains one of the biggest complaints from cruisers here. Persistent vendors, unlicensed guides, and individuals who won't take no for an answer. Taxi and excursion scams are another major risk, with drivers offering unofficial tours, inflated prices, or unsafe routes. Many cruisers feel pressured into situations they didn't plan for, simply because they didn't want to seem rude. The port is secure. The moment you step outside, it changes. Port 7. Cozumel, Mexico. Cozumel is busy, colorful, and packed with cruise passengers, which is exactly why so many people get caught off guard here. The crowds create a false sense of safety, but in 2026, organized distraction theft remains a real problem. While one person bumps into you or starts a friendly conversation, another targets your phone, wallet, or bag. Fake jewelry and tour scams are also common, especially near high-traffic shopping areas where everything looks legitimate at first glance. Because Cozumel feels lively and tourist-friendly, cruisers let their guard down faster than they should. Criminals don't need violence here. They rely on speed, confusion, and numbers. Crowded doesn't mean safe. It means opportunity. Port 6. Cartagena, Colombia. Cartagena is beautiful, historic, and extremely popular with cruisers, but it's also one of the most mentally exhausting ports on this list. The main danger in 2026 isn't violent crime. It's relentless pressure. Persistent harassment from vendors, unofficial guides, and street performers wears tourists down quickly. Many cruisers report being followed after leaving groups, with individuals staying close, offering services, or refusing to disengage. Over time, that pressure leads to rushed decisions, uncomfortable situations, and mistakes. Even confident travelers can feel overwhelmed here, especially in crowded historic areas. The danger here isn't violence, it's pressure and persistence, and how easily it pushes people into situations they didn't plan for. Port 5. La Romana, Dominican Republic. La Romana doesn't feel dangerous at first. It feels quiet, spaced out, and calm, which is exactly why it can catch cruisers off guard. Many areas outside the immediate port zone are isolated, with limited foot traffic and few visible authorities. In 2026, this lack of presence remains a key risk factor. If something goes wrong, help is not close, and police response for tourists can be slow or inconsistent. This isn't a port known for chaos or crowds, it's known for silence. Problems here tend to unfold slowly, without drama or warning. Nothing dramatic happens here until you realize help isn't coming. Port 4. Montego Bay, Jamaica. Montego Bay is stunning, with clear waters and lush scenery, but that beauty masks real risks. In 2026, crime near tourist zones remains high, especially outside the main port and resort areas. Fake guides and unofficial transportation are common, offering services that seem convenient but can quickly become unsafe or overpriced. Many cruisers let their guard down, assuming the familiar streets and lively atmosphere mean they are safe. Unfortunately, this is when mistakes happen, from getting lost to being targeted for theft or scams. Montego Bay draws visitors with its charm, but charm can be misleading. Montego Bay is beautiful, but beauty lowers your guard. Port 3. Belize. City. Belize. Belize City is unique because of its port layout. Most cruisers arrive via tender, and once ashore, controlled areas end quickly. In 2026, crime rises rapidly outside these zones, catching independent travelers off guard. Tourists unfamiliar with the port layout can find themselves in quiet streets or poorly patrolled areas where opportunistic theft is more likely. Even during the day, the transition from safe to risky can happen in just a few steps. Awareness and preparation are key, yet many underestimate the risk simply because the port looks welcoming. Belize City requires water transport to reach the shore, and that alone changes everything. Port 2. Colón, Panama. Colón is a high-risk port, not because it is chaotic, but because the environment outside the port is challenging for tourists. Severe poverty surrounds the area, making visitors highly visible and easy to target. In 2026, standing out can draw unwanted attention quickly, especially for those exploring independently. Local infrastructure for tourists is limited, and authorities are not always available to assist in emergencies. The safest approach is to stick to official excursions or remain within controlled areas. There is little margin for error here. This is a port where you don't explore. You exit carefully. Port 1. Port-au-Prince, Haiti. Port-au-Prince is the most dangerous cruise port in 2026, and for good reason. Political instability, armed crime targeting foreigners, and minimal emergency support make this port uniquely high risk. Independent exploration is strongly discouraged. Even experienced travelers are vulnerable once they step off the ship, as the combination of unpredictable conditions and limited local support creates situations that are difficult to manage. Cruise lines actively encourage passengers to stay on board or participate only in ship-organized excursions. This is not about exaggeration, it's about reality. This is the only port on this list where cruise lines quietly hope you stay on board. Bonus: how to stay safe at any cruise port. No matter where you sail, the same basic rules apply. Always screenshot ship time the moment you leave the vessel. Ship time and local time are often different, and missing that detail can mean missing the ship. Never trust unsolicited help, no matter how friendly or official it seems. If you didn't ask for assistance, you don't need it. Avoid flashy jewelry, expensive watches, or anything that signals you're carrying valuables. Blend in as much as possible. Stay aware of your surroundings, especially as the day goes on and crowds thin out. And if something feels off, don't debate it. Leave. Going back to the ship early is never a mistake. These cruise safety tips apply no matter where you sail in 2026. If you cruise even once a year, videos like this matter. Like this video so more cruisers see it. Subscribe for honest cruise tips, and comment SAFE if you want a follow-up on the safest cruise ports in 2026.